Welcome, everybody. If it's 6 o'clock, it must be time for All Things Brunswick.
Take
If you think
42.
we're going crazy, you have no idea what we're going through to get this show on the road today. But anyway,
This is take
Bill
42.
Moore.
Mary Stillwell.
And I guess I'm Dan Romance right now, but we'll find out down the road. Right?
Depends on his identity there. He might switch off. He might be a Daniela. We'll see what happens in his
I
identity.
tried. No, funny thing is, I tried to get my granddaughter's name that. I didn't
No, huh?
succeed. No.
I think that's a nice name.
I love that name. Don't you?
Yeah.
And I wanted it with one L.
See, I tried for Wilhelmina. Nobody would buy that one.
I like that one.
Yeah. That's not bad.
That's not a bad one.
I was named after my mother, my grandmother, my father. So I have 4 names.
Your father's name was Mary?
No.
Just checking.
My father's name was Robert. And
So are
my
you Mary
middle
Robert?
name is Roberta.
Ah,
okay.
okay. Now we got it.
Yeah.
I was getting some concern there.
It's another good name, by the way.
You know, it's amazing. I didn't think this started that many years ago, but maybe we've been woke much longer than I thought.
Fun facts that nobody listening to us cares about. What
Yes.
our middle names are. So let's move on.
They're in rare form tonight,
Oh, we are.
everybody.
You want to get us
so
kicked off into something?
get ready. Yeah. I was thinking that maybe we should talk a little bit tonight about the reassessment in Brunswick County of property values.
They went up.
They sure did. But the way I hear it, they're not consistent. Some went like 30%, others went 60%, some as high as 75% increase. So I don't understand that. Do you understand that?
What little I know, which admittedly isn't much about reassessments.
Oh, I know. Stop with what little you know. I thought you were great there. But
Payback's coming. My understanding, having talked to realtors in the past, is a lot of it is based on the sales data.
Okay.
and location.
Well, that's
Location.
essentially what
Oh,
it
yeah.
is,
Well,
right?
I'm
So,
sure that had something to do with
you
it.
know,
But
it's
there's
certain-
a long way between 30 and 60.
Well, it also depends if you have an older home,
right.
for example, sitting on a beach or on a lake, and the new houses went in, and you've never been reassessed for 5 or 6 years. You could jump 60, 70%, and that's
This
legit.
this is just 4 years later from the last assessment.
It was, I believe, 2019. They said on the news this morning was the last assessment.
Mhm.
And this was planned. And I'm going from memory, but I believe they were saying roughly it was $100,000.
And also, to be fair,
each.
we don't know since that last assessment what those homeowners did to those homes. They could have put a generator in, they could have put a back room on, they could have done a lot of things which raises the value of the home. And they
True.
probably didn't get a permit. Because I can guarantee you most people didn't bother with that piece of the
No,
game.
nobody does that.
Which leads me to another little bit of information, because some of the assessments I'm told were incorrect, because speaking of generators, one gentleman was assessed with a generator which he does not have. So I guess they just assumed.
Or somebody
don't know.
checked the wrong box and he's appealing it and getting it removed.
I
He's
don't know.
hoping to get it.
But
He'll get it removed. That's not a problem.
you know, that's kind of scary. Though.
I mean, I've been through appeals practices, not here, up north. You almost never win.
Well, it's pretty easy when you say I got a generator and there's where it's not. I mean, it's
But
pretty.
then they send someone out and they find other things to get you with.
That would be in the north, in the Yankeeville. Down in the south, we're gentlemanly and we do the right thing at all times.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Our local news, WECT, did a story on it, which I call a fluff piece because they were very pro it. But to give them credit, one of the things they were talking about is how it's hitting certain people.
Mhm.
So if you live in, let's go with the high rent district, or you can afford an additional $500 to $1,000 a year potentially in property taxes. Someone who's living more rural in a plot of land, maybe has a small house on it, and now that's worth 60, 70,000 more at roughly 50 cents per 100. That's a lot of money, and they may not be able to afford it. They can't put foot on the table right now.
Well, yeah, but I also think part of the problem is people are worrying about the unknown. generally when property assessment happens or reassessment happens, traditionally the assessors try to go to a a neutral number, so that it doesn't have a tax increase. They will lower the tax rate to accommodate the difference in
Right.
prices, and then you break down to being neutral. So,
Well-
and since the county hasn't announced any numbers yet, and neither have all the municipals around them, people can guess, and they just don't know.
They were very clear on that when they were talking about the story on the news, is they don't have a number, and they were interviewing someone, I don't remember who it was, that said basically we don't know what the numbers are yet.
The
I
other
did look
thing
up
that they
this.
did, though, Dan, is they lowered the land value and increased the actual building value. Why would they do something like that?
That I honestly don't know. I don't. We'd have to get a realtor / assessor on here to discuss that, because I have no clue. As Bill mentioned earlier, it's location, location, location. So a piece of property that's, let's call it beachfront in, say, Oak Island, is going to be worth a lot more money than
As opposed to a farm in Bolivia.
exactly, or wherever. So,
Mhm.
or even an older house in, say, Leland. I mean, there's so
There are no older houses in Lebanon, trust
not
me.
anymore at this point. But you get my point with it all, which is I don't to figure out why one is valued more than the other. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
really curious about that.
I wouldn't
I'm
even
gonna
want
have
to make
to
a guess
ask
on that.
about
That's a great
Mhm.
question, though. One we should try and
Yeah.
get someone
maybe
on to
maybe
talk
one
about.
day we should have an assessor on for
I
that
think-
segment,
I think we
and
should
just have him talk how it's done,
Yeah, I
because
think that would be a
that's
great
informative,
idea.
and
make a note.
and
Yes, sir.
that would give people some information and answer some questions we don't know. And there are things that we don't know. Look at that.
Especially you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's the thing that kind of bothers me about the whole thing is that
There.
when you consider in the last 10 years, how much has the population increased in Brunswick County, Bill? What would you say
Wow.
overall?
Oh, probably. I can tell you the voting size has increased by 40,000
All right.
people.
Let's just
And
say
that's
30,000.
well,
Now
that's just voters.
that's just voters.
Yeah.
So that's over 18, likely either
Mhm.
renting or own a
Those
house.
are registered voters. That
Right.
doesn't even matter as though they didn't do it at all.
So,
You
you're
gotta-
looking at, and
50,000 is
50,
not
say?
unreasonable.
so, those people are buying more stuff. So your sales tax revenue goes up for the county. They're paying their taxes because obviously all the building going on, that revenue has gone up. So I understand you got to build new roads, you got to have more fire, more police and all that, but it's got to be a balanced budget, right? You need to have hard numbers. Okay. We're bringing in, I'm just picking numbers, $1 million more revenue. It's way more than that, but we can use $1 million to build roads, fire, or whatever. And what I've seen in the past is they tend to spend more than they bring in. And then you start creating deficits.
Mhm.
I'm not saying Brunswick's doing that. I'm saying in other areas. You look at the blue states, that's where they're at right now. New York State in particular, where I'm from, and you are too.
I don't admit it anymore.
I know we don't want to admit it, but I pay more in, or excuse me, reverse. I pay less. I pay what I paid in 1 month in New York for property tax on a $250,000 house. I don't pay that much in a year here. All right.
Wow.
And now,
That is a big difference.
that's a huge difference,
Yeah.
right?
I would follow with that by saying that when I first moved down here, and they looked at me and they said to me, "Well, your property taxes on your new home and this was on a lake, and this was up in Chowan, going to be $3,000 a year, and we're really sorry that they're really that high." And I'm looking at myself going, "Well, let's see. I just left a house that I was paying a little under 16,000 for annually.
Right.
You're charging me 3. Damn.
Yeah. And
I'll
that's
make it.
But
Yeah.
what did you get for that? Right. You look at, again, we're using New York State because we're familiar with it. All that money is, the roads are horrendous.
Mhm.
Where's that money going?
Now we're talking about New York before we get people going here.
Yeah, but my point with that is I don't want to see that happening here, right?
Right.
We need to put in place, my opinion, what we need to put in place now is I'll call it a balanced budget, so to speak, right? As your revenue goes up, then you can add more services.
If we're going to talk about the job the county commissioners have done since they've been in office, then you have to look at a county that is bulging.
Mhm.
It's just growing by leaps and
Yes.
bounds.
Yes.
And they've still managed to keep us the 11th lowest tax rate in the state. Out of 100 counties, we're number 11 lowest. In addition to that, they have put together, and I'm not sure the exact number, but I believe it's at least $90 million in a rainy day fund.
Reserve fund. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they
And that's my
they've done a
point.
job.
They
They've
need to
done a
continue
great
doing exactly
job.
that because the infrastructure needs are tremendous. The growth.
Well, now most of the monies that they need is generated by property tax, but then of course they have the other taxes, motor vehicle and personal, et cetera, et cetera.
Permits.
Yeah. So,
That nobody
but
gets.
I mean, these taxes must be used to, increase the needs because the population's increased.
Exactly.
So, and I have a couple questions. I guess I'll have to go talk to them, but I want to know why an assessment was done in just 4 years since the last one. Because I've lived here a
that's a good
long
question.
time and I do not remember it being that close together. And
Usually they're 8
also,
years apart.
I was
yeah,
going to say that. I was going to ask
however,
what.
I think they said 8 years, but some of them do it every 4 years with the understanding that if we did it every 8 years, we would really be kicking you in the butt to jump you 8 years of growth. This way, by doing it every 4, the bite isn't so bad.
well, maybe that's the answer then. But
That's a politically expedient thing too.
yeah,
Right?
Well,
well,
that's a rationale I've heard when we
Yeah.
talked about it, because I believe it's 8 years for the statewide that must mandated evals of houses, reevals. And I think they purposely do every 4 under the rationale that if we do it every 8, we're really going to sock you. By doing it every 4, the pain is in 2 small bites rather than one big one.
In theory.
makes sense. And the other question that I would have is the percentages. Why increases were not consistent? Why they are 30% somewhere? And I mean, I want some answers to that.
Yeah, that's where we would need to bring an assessor on because I would be
I
speculating
mean,
at
I'm
best.
curious to know, a new starter home in Brunswick County right now, the average price of a new starter home is $270,000.
That's what they said on the news this morning is the
Yeah.
average
Yeah.
first home,
Yep.
starter home, whatever you want to
But-
do, was 270 and people can't afford that.
No, and I'm here to tell you, I know a lot of young couples who have just recently married or married for a couple of years. They can't afford that.
Well, unfortunately, what's happened, and we were talking about this morning on the asylum. So this is why I can kick in on this conversation with TK and the crew. Right now, we're in a situation in North Carolina that there are more people looking to buy housing or apartments than there are housing or apartments.
Mhm.
I know.
So that
Yeah.
pushes the price up, number one.
Mhm.
Number two, you throw into that, a lot of the incoming people are coming from blue states where they're older, north. So you look in Brunswick, well, literally 1/3 of our population is 62.5 or over, which is different from most other counties.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're coming down here having sold their homes, most likely coming with most of that in their pocket because they probably lived in the other house for 30 years, paid off their mortgage like I did when I came down here.
Mhm.
And so I was buying cash, and they're walking in with cash to buy things, which pushes prices up because now we can bid against each other and run that. And what happens to the poor person who spent their life here and they didn't make that kind of money?
Right.
Exactly.
And now they have to compete against people
Yep.
who have it in their pocket.
Yep.
Is it fair to them? And I would dare say no.
Yeah, it's
Exactly. I
interesting.
agree.
Because I'm actually going to be interviewing a realtor on my Living Fit After 50 show podcast in about 2 weeks. But I had a preliminary meeting with her. She's in New York.
Mhm.
So I was telling her about the situation here, exactly what you were just talking about. Believe it or not, it's happening in New York also, but in an odd way. There's nothing she said there's no inventory here because what people are doing is they are moving south, but they're not selling their house. They're renting it.
Oh.
So nobody is selling their house. And then the other side of that is, if you think about, you were Westchester County, if I remember right,
Correct.
you know what the values on those houses are. And you sell that house and you make a lot of money. To your point, people here don't have that. You can't compete. The other side of it is, there's people living in, say, New York City. She brought up this point. A studio apartment in New York City, $3,000 a month.
Easy.
Oh, yeah.
That's the low
That's
end,
cheap.
right? Well, when you're looking at a mortgage here for a 2,000 square foot house and it's half that, they're like, let's go.
Yep.
And the other side of it, and I thought this was a fascinating point she brought up, and one that I kind of considered, but I didn't really realize the depth of it, is remote work. So they're still making what they made. You were talking about the retirees, but the ones that aren't retired are moving here
and doing their job
and still
online.
doing the same job they did in New York City and getting that pay
Exactly.
rate.
Yep.
That's true.
So then those people are overwhelming the people here.
And what's further hurting the people down here looking, the locals who have been homegrown, for want of a better term. Okay. Interest rates have just started climbing,
Oh, yes.
and the reality is, and you and I look at each other, we would have loved these interest rates when we were buying our houses 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But they weren't there then. But nowadays, when you've gone from half of 1% or 1% and you're jumping to 6%.
Yeah, I'm paying 2.25 or something like that.
That was a amazing amount of dollars, and it's hitting these people a couple $100 more a month, and they can't afford it.
It's actually more than you realize. So let's say you have a $300,000 house, which is close to a starter home here. At 6% interest, that's $18,000 a year, just interest. That's not principal at all.
And we still
$1,500 a
have,
month.
besides these new couples, these young couples starting out, we still have those folks on fixed income. All of this stuff needs to be taken a good hard look at. Especially, I know a couple who are elderly and they're now empty nesters. Okay. Nobody living in the house. The house is too big. Okay. They want to sell it and move into a smaller home. The smaller homes that they have looked at are outrageously priced. And their older home needs a little bit of work here and there. They're concerned that they're not going to make the move easily.
It's funny you say that, because we bought our house down here in 2017, November 2017. I paid $141,000 for it. 900 square foot, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Nice little bungalow type house, exactly what my wife and I wanted. Those exact same houses that were not kept up. Ours was kept up very well when we bought it. Had a lot of it redone. But we recently in our neighborhood had a house that was, I'm trying to put, a hoarder lived there. And it was basically, they're gutting it.
Wow.
$300,000 it went for. $295,000 it went for.
Really?
Same size as us, same configuration, actually. And I looked at my wife when we saw that and I went, you got to be kidding me. Because.
So what's yours worth, Dan?
$300,000. My value has doubled in 5 years, which sounds good for me, right? But I'm going to die in that house. I'll never see that money. But the problem becomes is they're going to reassess me, and I'm going to get reassessed at $300,000. So now instead of paying taxes on what I was, 141, actually I got reassessed not too long ago. It was like 167 is what I was reassessed at. I'm going to have to figure that out. And you talk about fixed income. Social Security went up, what, 8%, I believe, this year?
Yes.
It was a good jump this year.
It's a good jump, but it's not going to cover it.
Nope.
8% on, I think someone told me the average Social Security check is somewhere around $1,700. So 8% on that, let's use 10%, is $170 a month. So that's going to get sucked right up.
Oh yeah.
And
it's
I
no
don't know
big
the
deal.
answer. It's not. It's you look at Duke Energy's prices have gone up.
Yes.
And they're going up again.
Yes.
The FPUA and the other water companies.
Yeah.
And of course, food is cheaper.
Well, we have to give credit where credit's due, Bill.
$7.
Eggs are now only $4 a
Oh,
dozen
yeah,
instead of
they
they're
$8.
coming down.
They
saw
were
that.
$7.19 at Walmart.
Yeah.
for a dozen eggs.
And I paid $1.78 for 5
And they
dozen
were
18 months
Today
ago.
at Walmart, they were only $2.42.
Yeah, they're coming down.
Yeah,
but
they
I mean,
are
your
coming
point is valid,
down.
right? Food's going up,
Mhm.
gas is still up. It's down from where the high was, but
Yeah,
Still more expensive than it was when you
Yeah.
took over.
Right.
yeah.
And you look at these people with their fixed income. I don't know how they're doing it.
I don't either.
It scares me
I
as someone
don't
who's
either.
5 years out,
Yeah.
7 years out from retirement.
I sold my house 3 years ago. And a lady from Charlotte purchased it. She used it as her vacation home, and then she rented it out when she wasn't here.
Airbnb or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And now she decided that she would sell it immediately. And she made about, I'm going to say, $30,000 more than I did when I sold it.
We had something similar happen in our neighborhood. They bought
Yeah.
the house a year later, they sold it and they made like 20 something thousand
Yeah.
dollars more.
Yep.
In my neighborhood in Brunswick, we're in a new development that we moved in
Mhm.
about 3 years ago. And a couple across the street from us were there a couple of months ahead of us, maybe 3-4 months. They just sold their house, and their house is comparable to ours. They convinced me now that my house has grown in value by $200,000 in 3 years.
I would not be shocked by that at all.
No,
I don't
me
know.
Well, I am
neither.
shocked by it.
I'm not.
And my wife says to me, "So you sell it? Where are you going?"
That's the point, right?
Well, that's it.
Yeah, that is the point.
I
That's
told her we could
it.
live here in Brunswick. We just had to go outside for showers.
But I don't know the answer. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are solutions to this?
I know.
Do we put a border wall up on this northern part of the state to keep the damn Yankees out? I'm joking, but
And not only that, Dan, what about these folks with fixed incomes? Okay, I'm a widow, all right? I mean, I did not have an issue. I knew where I was going.
Mhm.
But what about the ladies who lose their partner and they must sell their home? And where are they going to go? There there are no places to go.
no, there's not. There's very low inventory, and what little inventory there is so pricey.
Yeah.
They can't
Oh.
afford it.
Even the new places they're putting in now with assisted living are just unbelievable. I mean, when we first moved down to the house we're in now, we looked at a place and decided maybe we just want to go there and just spend the rest of our lives there. They wanted $400,000 for the privilege of living there,
Mhm.
and then $3,000 a month, of which I was going to get none of it back. However, if I gave them $600,000, then when both of us checked out, our kids would get $300,000 back from that money. Otherwise, the $400,000 was theirs.
Was that Trinity?
Yes, it was Trinity. Come to think of it,
I actually know someone who
Yeah.
took that deal, and I went, "What? Why?"
me too.
It did
it
not
just
make
wasn't
sense.
working.
That's why I was wondering if that, because it was the numbers you threw out were almost verbatim what she was saying.
I feel so bad because I know some ladies who have just recently been widowed, and I really don't know where they're going to go.
See, one of the problems is unique to North Carolina, where New York can do something like this. In New York, we better take our break right now, and then we'll come back and discuss about the differences
Yes.
We're
between
into
North
it.
Carolina and New York,
Right.
because we had that half hour go quickly. So anyway, stay tuned while we pay a few bills. Be back in a couple. Show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, located at 8210 River Road, Southport, is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the Tackle Box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair, with certified technicians in all engines, and fiberglass specialists. The Tackle Box offers fresh local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, attorney at law.
It seems like every other store is now selling CBD in some form or another. But did you know that Wilmington has just one local CBD company? I'm talking about Carolina Pure. Family owned and operated, they are Wilmington's first and only CBD company that makes quality hemp products right here in town, including tinctures, topicals, and pet products. Their hemp is sourced from local farmers and they support area musicians and nonprofits. Check us out at carolinapureshop.com.
Bill.
Yes, I do tables.
I was gonna say nobody. No.
Okay, at this point, we want to welcome back to part of Things Brunswick. The three of us are sitting here having a lively discussion about taxes and how we help people out with taxes. And, so, if you have any ideas, you can always go on the chat line and we'll look at it and I can talk to you about it because I'm not sure the chat line's working today. And we'll leave it right there for now. Anyway, we were about ready to look at some options and helping the elderly out, if you will, 65 and over.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they could do, for example, in New York, we can't do down here to any extent. In New York, you had 740 school districts.
Mhm.
Okay. They were all, if you will, independent, 99% of them.
Yep.
Cities, some worked for cities, but most of their own. They had their own tax rates and they hit the property owners straight here. North Carolina, most of that money comes from the state through
Right.
their taxes.
Right.
So there's a little bit that comes from the county when they do maybe 30% slip a little either way of the budget when they're doing housing, whatever, or at least buildings and whatever else. So in New York, they've passed in some cities and areas, they have passed, if you're over 65, you stop paying school taxes.
Some areas.
Some, I said
Some.
some. Okay. Now down here, that wouldn't be as effective because the school taxes are not the size of the budget.
They're
you
at
would
the
need to
state
be.
level.
Right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's coming out of state coffers. So that's not going to be something that works real well here.
So what other solutions do you think we should be looking at? Silence.
Yeah,
That's exactly
I know because
that's exactly what my response would have
yeah,
been. I don't know the answer.
no, because we all know by doing this assessment, both county and municipal rates are going to change,
Mhm.
most likely increase. But we're talking about both.
Well, I
And
can see the county staying tight, but the municipals are going to jump.
the
So
communities
that's
are going to have to
offset it.
offset that.
Right.
Mhm.
New Hanover County is looking at potentially a sales tax increase. There's talk behind the scenes of that. And it's interesting to see the federal level too, right? The House passed the let's get rid of the IRS bill, as I call it. And I am 1,000,000% in favor of that. I don't know the true solution. There are services, obviously, you've got to have fire, you've got to have police. You
Yes.
have to have those things. But we also
Ambulance.
need to pare back somewhere else because it is gotten to the point where the young couple getting married can't buy a house.
No.
The widower, has
Mhm.
to give up their place of residence and go live somewhere.
Well, again, we go back to the fact that 30, 40, 50 years ago, most families were one income families.
Mhm.
That has changed so that most families now are two income.
And still
Takes both
struggling.
people and still struggling.
Still
I will-
struggling. Yeah.
I will tell you one that stuck in my mind this morning, and it's a little bit different from where we're going now, but it bothered me to no end. And actually, I talked about it on the show with TK this morning. There was a study made of debt. And the study showed that of all the groups of indebtedness, the most in debt were the millennials, followed by Gen X.
I'm not shocked by that at all.
Okay.
No.
What's interesting is they zeroed in and they just picked a couple in the article. And the couple came out of, I think it was Lincoln, Illinois, or Indiana, or whatever, someplace out there. And this was a couple in their 30s, 4 children, $80,000 combined income. Before COVID, they ran about a $20,000 indebtedness, other than their college indebtedness was 160 grand. Okay, different issue. Okay, after
I'll show on
COVID, but here's what struck me and bothered me. They then said once COVID was over, they decided they had to do things. So they loaded their 4 children and the 2 of them, and they went to Disney World for 10 days. So you think about that 20,000 that went to 40,000, and most of that was a Disney trip, or at least 50% of it. And then they talk about taking their kids to, expensive museums or expensive zoos. And, I'm not begrudging anybody anything, but people in that generation are having a difference of learning between what's the difference between want and need.
Well, 2 points I'll make on that. One, 50 years ago, they made the same argument about our generation. And we were the ones that were spending like crazy. So some of that, I agree with everything you're saying, by the way, but I think some of it is generational. The prior generation always thinks the one behind them is nuts.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
That said, I do think that we have a society that is, one, everything's a throwaway. Something breaks, you don't fix it, you get rid of it. All right. And the manufacturers now are playing on that. Why? Remember the old Maytag repairman? And I had washers that were, in fact, Lori, my wife, had a refrigerator she gave to my son-in-law and daughter that was, I believe, 40 years old, and they're still using it. And it's ice.
And the Iceman
cold.
comes every day with that block of ice.
Pretty
and they put it in the
much.
bottom.
So there's all that. But, we were talking about housing and the cost of housing. People look at my wife and I like, you live in a 900 square foot house? How do you do that? My God, you must be poor. I've literally had people say that to me, and I'm
You're
like,
kidding.
no. And then, I have 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. It's it's not extravagant. I'm not poor. Okay. But because I don't have 5,000 square feet with 15 bedrooms and a bathroom off each one of them, somehow they equate that to being poor. And then, you look at cars. Right. I drive a 12-year-old van that I bought for $6,000, and it's paid off and will last me another 5 years. And I know kids, the millennials, my daughter, for example, $80,000 truck. Guess what? I get to the same place she does.
That's
want
a want
versus need.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm the same way.
Keep it up with the Joneses.
Do you have an 80,000 van?
Yeah, I was gonna
No,
say, wow.
I'm just checking.
My Merc is a 2006. I bought it brand new. I've been the only driver. It doesn't have a whole lot of miles on it. There's
Goes
not
to
a
and from the fish
darn
store.
thing wrong. Well, there's not.
And
And here.
then once he goes to the windmill shows.
There's not a thing wrong with it. And I'm in the process of looking at another vehicle, but I have to tell you, it's been difficult for me to make that decision and say, oh, darn, I don't do car payments.
And what I love about it is they'll say to you, well, it's going to cost you a lot of money to fix it. And I sit there and go, it'll cost me less to fix it than your car payment for the next year.
Exactly.
And they just look at you like, what?
Mhm.
It's So some of what's going on financially, I do think is
Mhm.
related to our keeping up with the Joneses, as I put it a
Yeah.
little while ago.
And you know where the worst part of that is in this county? Our parks. I have never in my life, I, I worked for the city of Boiling Spring Lakes as their special events coordinator for 14 years. And I have never seen so much competition in parks in this area.
How so? What you mean?
The fact that it has to be so big, it has to have this kind of equipment, it must have this kind of bench and that
So
kind
regulation
of
is what
fence.
you're talking about. No,
No,
just
no,
want.
no. It's so much like keeping up with the Joneses
Oh, it's got to have
that
okay.
you just want to
The
screech.
goodies, so to speak.
Yeah.
You got to remember, we have two issues. We have wants versus needs, and and following on what you said about the instant gratification, nobody wants to wait and earn. I want it, and I want
Right.
it today.
Right.
You know, and then I can't wait to get the car fixed. I'll get a new one, no problem. Okay,
Instant credit.
and
The Amazon Prime effect, I call it.
oh, that's a good way of putting
That's
it.
the way
I like
I've
that.
always, and now even 2 days is not good enough. I need
Mhm.
it delivered to my door in 2 hours.
I just hit send.
Yeah.
It's not here yet.
Funny thing is, I actually ordered my groceries from Walmart, and for pickup. This was a couple weeks ago for pickup on Saturday because that's normally what we do. Well, one of the things wasn't available for pickup.
Mhm.
Guy dropped it off at my house an hour later, and I'm like, they paid somebody to drive from this wherever
Wow.
the warehouse, the store. I don't know where they got it from to drop off this one item.
Probably from another store.
Could be, but
Yep.
my thought was, okay, they're paying him, they're paying his mileage, they're
Yep.
paying for the product. They're not doing that for free, so their
Uh-uh.
prices reflect that.
But look
Yep.
at even Sunday mail is, Amazon is paying the post office to deliver mail on Sunday.
Yep.
Is
Yeah.
their packages
Yep.
on Sunday,
Yep.
and they're getting maximum dollars. They're not getting minimum wage to do that,
No, they're not.
and yet they're
Mhm.
still making a profit.
Well, because we're paying for it.
But
Well,
it's
yeah, but if you
all
pay that,
this-
if you're like I am, and I buy the Amazon Prime, which is what $130 a year, I'm not paying. Everything's coming free.
But it's the cost of the good that's been increased. Is my point. So yeah, you think you're getting that delivery for free. You're not getting it for free.
No.
They just jack the price up.
Never.
Well, this just kind of freaked me out when the first time I learned about park equipment was when I saw the price tag of 30,000, but there were only 4 items. But because they were specialty items, that is what they cost. And it was just, and it was not a requirement.
So instead of I'll call it a basic bench, they wanted
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
grade A bench,
Yeah.
and they're going to pay an
Yeah.
extra 20,000 or whatever for it.
I'm
it.
here to tell you this is happening in this county because if you will go and visit the parks in all of the municipalities, hey, we have the top of the line everywhere you go. And I don't see,
Because that's the expectation now.
yeah, exactly
It goes
that.
back to expectations.
Yep.
And the other thing I always talk about is I raised 6 kids. There were 8 of us in the house with 1 bathroom.
Mhm.
And you know what? We did just fine.
Yep.
Now you need a bathroom for every bedroom.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the new thing, right?
List
And
of everything that is required.
right. But
at
you
this
think about
time.
this. So let's say you have a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house that now instead of paying $100,000, I'm going to use round number, $100,000. Now that house costs $200,000.
Mhm.
But it's not just that. You got to pay the interest on that,
Mhm.
on your mortgage, and then property tax,
Insurance.
circling back here, property tax, school tax, all that on top. You don't realize that extra 100,000 is more like 180, 190.
And let's face it, in this area, we pay more insurance because it is mandatory that we have wind and hail.
Right. And auto insurance is skyrocketing
So,
too.
yeah.
I want to tell you, I just saved $700 on my auto insurance.
Don't worry, it's going to double next year because there actually is I forget who it was where I saw it, but they're basically looking to increase the auto rates
Yeah.
again. Now I just got a 18% increase. 2 years ago it was 20 something.
Well, I would tell you that my insurance, I've been with the company 4 years, and they just sent me a bill again, and it jumped like $400 every 6 months. And no, I went shopping.
That's what you got to do. Yeah.
And I went to USAA
Yeah.
because I can go there, and I saved $700.
Yep.
And then I went back I'm starting to move everything else there. You know, my wife has a bunch of jewelry that my daughter's waiting for her to die so she can get her hands on. And it's true. She'll tell you. My daughter will tell you that. That's mine. That's mine over there.
But it's, to your point, on that, you see people doing that with cell phones. They jump from plan to plan because the carriers will say, oh, come to us. We'll give you a good rate. We'll give you a new phone. But 3 years from now, when that plan is up, we're not going to do anything for you. And then you jump to another one. Or as I just recently did, I got rid of Spectrum and went to T-Mobile, saved $35 a month.
And I just went to T-Mobile. I had Verizon for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I went to them,
The same carrier
saved
ever
a
since
dollar,
I
saved a bunch of
started.
money. And then what was shocking to them, though, and I laugh about this, we both needed new phones. And the S23, the one that folds in half and does your laundry and all kinds of other stuff with the phone, does everything you need it to do. They were shocked. They didn't want one.
Oh, that blows their mind.
There's a couple over there, and there's two over there that'll do what I need. And Wanda wanted one too, so I got one for her. The same. Instead of it cost me $100 each because there was a special on. But don't you want to wait and get the one over there? So, and we'll give you $400 toward the $2,000.
And that's where the younger people will go. I want the latest and greatest. It's fun. A similar story. When we opened our business down here, we needed a line. So we went to, at the time we were AT&T. We went to AT&T and said, we just want to add a line. And I wanted a flip phone. Not a smartphone, just the old original flip phone. They didn't have them. What are you talking about?
I know.
We don't have those. And I'm like, okay. And so we ended up getting a smartphone that we've never really used. All we do is take phone calls on it.
You see now, the Samsung has come out with the S23, which is the flip phone.
Yet,
It's
funny how
$2,000 a flip phone.
old is new again.
Well,
and the price
everything
is
goes
100 times more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep, it returns to it.
And
Well, I've noticed in this area, and I guess it's because we have more of a population, but I own a home in Maine. I have to.
I'm sorry. No, thank you.
I
7
have
windmills
to-
on
Does it
the
have windmills
property.
on it?
No, I have to insure that home. That insurance has never changed. I mean, I've owned the home several years and it's never changed one way or the other.
Those sod houses are sturdy.
Funny. But when I owned my home here, it seemed like every time I turned around, my insurance changed.
And what's best around here is every time the hurricanes come in right now, they keep going up to Cape Fear and going to Raleigh and Charlotte.
Yes.
And we don't get a lot of it, but we're the ones that gets
We have
nailed
to pay
to
the price
wall
for it. Yeah.
with
Exactly.
hurricane money.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm lucky. I'm not in a flood zone, so I don't have to pay flood insurance. You add that on top of wind.
Yeah, I
and
don't anymore.
Oh, I
either.
know. I
Oh,
wasn't
my God.
either.
And
Thank goodness.
Again, we're going right back to how do young couples,
Yeah.
widowers,
I
how they
don't know
afford
how
this?
they do it. It's so sad.
The other issue that's in this area is there's no jobs, really. The jobs that are out there are service jobs,
Mhm.
This
paying
is a service economy.
minimum wage. There's no manufacturing. There's nothing.
True.
So, you've got people, and I'm going to sound like a damn Democrat right now, but and I hate it, but they're not wrong. You got people working 3 service jobs
Yes.
to cover their bills.
Yeah.
And I'm going to break into that and say, I'm sure you know that when I was.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, no. Oh, no. I had one job, but my wife also worked. So, in effect, right?
Mhm.
I was fortunate. My type of job, we didn't have to do that. But in college, I worked 3 jobs. That wasn't a job.
So I got to play.
I was gonna say that was you getting to play.
And running in various circles. And
But you look at that, and then the other thing we haven't thrown out there is the cost of healthcare.
I know.
I mean,
don't even go there.
I'm paying over $1,000 a month for my health insurance. And that's with the crappy plan. I have the worst plan possible under Obamacare, and I'm paying almost $1,000 a month. Obama. Maybe they should have read the bill before they voted on it. But you start adding all this up. I'm okay right now, but 5-10 years from now, I honestly don't think I'm going to be.
I am fortunate.
Well, at 65, you'll be able to kick into Medicare. That'll help.
Yeah, but you look at things, Bill, like my 401k is in the toilet right now.
Really?
Oh, I've lost 25%
Oh.
from where I was. It's coming back, right? But it's a paper loss. I admit that. But you think about, I've only got 5 to 10 years to recoup and earn more interest on that. Somebody's in their 20s has got the power of,
right.
But you look at that and I'm sitting here going, if property taxes go up, foods increase, all that stuff, and they're going to give me 8% on my Social Security.
I know.
The real cost of inflation right now is actually probably closer to 20 to 25.
And don't forget, part of the Social Security pays for your Medicare.
Medicaid,
Comes out of that too.
yep, all that stuff. So I think we are in for a disaster in about 10 years, 10
In
to
about
20
10
years.
years, they say Social Security, if nothing happens, will reduce their benefits by 20%.
They're going to have to.
Yeah.
Now they won't. They'll just tax away. The solution I've always thrown out is why is it capped on the first 100 and I think it's 165,000 you make?
Oh, I agree to that. And the other thing I argue about, and that would be negative to people, it was set up to be a program for pensioners.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, but the government turned around and said, okay, you are disabled, you can get Social Security. And I'm not denying them whatever, but they're not, that should be a different program. It should be a standalone program.
Okay, fair point. I can accept
And so
that.
the pensioners are not having those things ripped
cover
off
for-
from them.
And the other thing too, you mentioned pensions. Think about, was it 75? They rolled out 401ks as the greatest thing ever coming.
They did.
Pensions are gone, right?
Mhm.
I actually have a pension coming from one of my jobs. It's going to be about $100 a month. Woo! That's for 10 years of work. But it was with Pitney Bowes. They got rid of the pension plan right after they closed our office. It wasn't shortly after that. Most businesses did. So, you're old enough. You've got your school pension, military pension, all that. I got $100 a month coming from a pension.
Oh
And
my.
the sad part about that is as much as I invested in my 401k, because I was prudent about that, I read it's probably a few months ago, the average 60-year-old, what they have in their 401k won't last them a year.
Nope. I heard the same thing,
Won't
Dan.
last them a year. What is going to happen? How are we as a society going to cover that?
I'm going to tell you what
And
may have been happening, and I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing, but if you go back 40, 50 years, there were extended families.
Mhm.
Oh,
absolutely.
Mom and pop, grandma and grandpa lived with the kids, and you had and then we broke away from that, and everybody has their own little places to run. For example, my grandparents lived with my parents and us, and they contributed what they could from their pensions to help make the bill, but we all lived comfortably and we did fine. That may be a solution to where we're going long term.
I think it's probably the only solution with that. The question is will people do it?
I know, and
I can't wait
families
to move
don't.
in with you, Dad.
Well, families don't live together anymore.
They do and they don't. But
Well, they move out of state to other states because of work.
That's
And
the reality is things are going to change.
they're going to have to change.
yeah,
And you're
gonna have to
actually
start taking
seeing
their
that
families
with the younger kids that are living in the parents' basement.
yeah, that's true.
So it's
there are some.
I think you're exactly right.
Mhm.
That's what's going
Yeah.
to it's
That's
going
what
to
the only
have to
solution
happen.
is possible at this point.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Um,
And the other solution is going to be there will be people I've been friends with you for 30 years. We'll combine our incomes and we'll live together. Guys and guys, gals and girls. And they don't, it doesn't matter.
You
Then
wanna-
we'll move in together.
You want to hear a good one? You'll laugh at this one.
You got about a minute and 30
All right. So there's a
seconds to do
single
that.
guy who put out on TikTok that he wanted to marry another single guy for one reason only, so they could combine their incomes and be able to pay their bills. Had nothing. We'll just get married because then you get the tax benefits of marriage. We'll have
Actually, it's
nothing to do with each
It's
other.
not a benefit
Mhm.
anymore. It's a tax
Yeah.
punishment
But-
penalty to be
Yeah.
married.
But that was his plan. Is like, we'll do that. I've heard people say my
Mm.
plan is to go to prison.
Three
Wow.
hots in a cot.
Or folks get divorced so that their children are taken care of.
Or
You
some folks
know.
get divorced and they avoid the marriage penalty
Yeah.
and they continue to live with each other.
It's
That happens too.
the
Mhm.
government has gone a long way towards screwing this up.
We got about a minute to wrap this up before we have to go to.
Turn it over
so
to you, my
I
friend.
think this time is just we set out with about 3 different things
Wow,
to talk about.
I
got the
know.
one.
And we never, and we
We-
just kept rolling with that one topic.
Well, we never lack for things to talk about, do
There's-
we?
We never let facts interfere with opinions either. We
No.
roll with it, we got to go out
I
there.
mean, it's not facts over feeling.
Not here. It's want versus need.
Yeah.
Yes,
We want a good show and we need to have it.
I need to have that $80,000 truck.
Nah.
I don't know if Core G makes them that expensive, but I'll get you something.
Newer vehicles
Yeah, my
never
son did want a
impress me.
Mustang, so I bought him a little Matchbox Mustang and put it in stock.
10
10
seconds.
seconds. 9. Go, Bill.
It is time to pay a few bills and let us wrap it up when we're done. Let's talk to you again in a couple of minutes, people.
It seems like every other store is now selling CBD in some form or another. But did you know that Wilmington has just one local CBD company? I'm talking about Carolina Pure. Family owned and operated, they are Wilmington's first and only CBD company that makes quality hemp products right here in town, including tinctures, topicals, and pet products. Their hemp is sourced from local farmers and they support area musicians and nonprofits. Check us out at carolinapureshop.com.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, attorney at law.
Was your home damaged by Hurricane Florence or Matthew? Repair, reconstruct, or elevate your home with help from Rebuild NC. Find out if you are eligible for assistance by calling 833-ASK-RBNC. That's 833-275-7262. Or apply now at rebuild.nc.gov/repair.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, for the closeout of All Things Brunswick on Tuesday evening on February 28th, the last day of the month of February.
I
Yeah.
know.
Believe it or not, it is already March. And I want you to know
Yeah.
that what I am doing for my children today, I'm going home when I get out of here. I am taking a ruler. I am putting it in the grass, and I'm going to show them the snow that I had here compared to what they got in New York.
Oh, some of my clients live in New York, and they were working out today. They're all bundled up. They're like,
And
yeah,
my
you
car
need
said
to
it was
snow.
84 at one
And I'm
point.
sitting here in shorts and a t-shirt, sweating.
Anyway,
I can show you my plow bills from my house in Maine.
I think we should at least say goodbye before this thing. We got 2 more minutes, a little bit.
Wow.
So we
So-
actually got some things to talk about here. I'm going to bother the hell out of my grandkids because it's just fun.
Well, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, that
Kids are there
Oh,
to cook
you're
and clean for
bad.
you, and the grandchildren are there to give them a bunch of sugar and then hand them back to mom.
and as my kids say, it's not the man that raised us.
Yeah, I've had the same thing said to me. You weren't like that with me. No, I wasn't. You're right.
But
Different role of grandpa.
Yep.
they can be so much fun though. At Christmas time, my granddaughter beat me at trouble. She beat the pants off me at that game.
Must have been drafty. But
No,
No, they had the windmill fired up to keep the heat
the
up.
windmill. Okay.
we had the best time. We had the absolute best time.
Anyway, since we've been babbling for about the last minute and covering athlete
It's called Phil, stretch,
Phil,
Bill,
stretch.
stretch.
Yeah, last time we did that, I thought it was this. So, getting nowhere with that again. We're on a roll today, people.
Yeah, we
But
are.
anyway, I
We're
hope
having
you
fun,
enjoyed
though.
the show today. We had a good time doing it, and hope
Yeah.
we gave you some thoughts to think about. And
And if you have suggestions or
Yep.
solutions, love to hear them.
Absolutely.
Comment.
yeah,
Yeah.
just go to on the YouTube site and just
Put a comment in.
Put a comment.
I
in.
would
It'd
love
be
to hear
great
'em.
to look at it. and
Or
talk
if
about
you'd
it
like
next
to
week.
see someone
Yep.
on the show, let me know.
If you want to see Dan and I in the Speedo contest, just write in.
No, we're not
Lots
And
of-
doing
it's time to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
night,
I'm not
everyone.
See you in a
saying
week.
that one.